Good evening and welcome to This Is the Day. My name is Sarah Otieno.
I'm Frederick Njiri.
Well, we are on now. Thank you so much for joining the show. We're live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio, where the music does the talking. Tunaangalia nini today, Fred?
Now, today we're going to look. Today, by the way, is the world is celebrating, or was celebrating, the World Parliamentarians Day, and so we're going to do an audit of bicameral parliament, how they've performed in terms of, looking out for the welfare of the citizenry.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a guy on the run in Kisumu. This guy actually sat down and ate a hyena.
You are seeing for us.
We'll give you more
You are
details
seeing
on that.
for us.
And then our useless story is going to come from one of my grandfathers. Oh, it's one of those stories. It's very useless, by the way.
This one is literally useless.
This one is extremely useless. It will never help anyone in this world.
It helped you, maybe. We'll wait and see.
I doubt.
Well, join our discussion today, 0786316316 on WhatsApp, SMS line 20316 on Facebook and Twitter. And the reason as to why I'm insisting on that is because today is also World Social Media Day.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can also engage us on Facebook and Twitter at Family Radio 316.
All right, let's start, and we start by celebrating, joining the rest of the world in marking the World International Parliamentarians Day. This is a day, as I said before, that is set aside to audit the performance of parliamentarians around the world and their impact to the societies they serve. In Kenya, the bicameral parliament has been the subject of both praise and criticism. It has seen power struggles between the two houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, as they try to determine which is the superior house. But at the same time, they've had moments where they fought for the good of the citizenry.
There are areas in this country where people are dying of floods. Over 100 people have died. COVID has only killed 14. All the attention is on COVID. People of Budalangi are left on their own. People of Nyando are on their own. People of Karachuonyo are on their own. People of Kochia are on their own. People of Migori, Nyatike, Konyango, Luanda, they are on their own. No one thinks about them. Mr. Speaker, which is this country that we are living in? This is one government that could not afford to give its citizens this thing, what is called? Mask, Mr. Speaker, which is worth 3 shillings, Mr. Speaker. Leave alone food. No, let's say 20 shillings. Members of parliament are buying in their constituencies for people, mask, Mr. Speaker.
This is not about my position. And if, Mr. Speaker, you have made your determination, you have been pushed to a corner to make that decision. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say this.
Order, Senator.
Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order?
If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, as I take my seat as a backbencher, let me hand over this file to Honorable Kimunya and ask him to come and take the seat that I have warmed for the last 7 years, and I wish him all the best.
Well, Fred, do you know your member of parliament?
Almost definitely I know him.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't. By the time I moved places, initially I was in MP Theuri's constituency.
Yeah.
Now I'm in Babu's constituency. So we have a very dramatic member of parliament. He has his way of doing things.
Well, I know of some people who actually do not know who is representing their areas because they detached themselves from parliament, and just the political leaders completely. Others is just because tunawajua siku ya election. Then after that,
Karike, do you know your member of parliament
yes,
yourself?
yes, I
Who
do.
is he?
Jude Njomo.
Or she? Jude Njomo.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. All right, we would also want to know, how would you rate the performance of the current parliament? Let's give them a scale, maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10.
1 being the poorest and 10 being the highest. How would you rate the current parliament right now? 0786 316 316, that is on WhatsApp, SMS line 316. Well, today we've recorded 176 new COVID-19 cases. The new infections were confirmed from 2,419 samples that was tested in the last 24 hours. And according to Dr. Rashid Aman, who is the Chief Administrative Secretary of the Ministry of Health, he said 26 patients were also discharged, raising the number of recoveries to 2,039.
We have tested 2,419 samples over the past 24 hours, and among these samples, 176 have tested positive for the disease. This now brings to 6,366 the total caseload in the country out of 169,836 samples that we have tested so far. All the 176 Kenyans are Kenyans, and 100 of them are males, 76 are females. The youngest is a 3-year-old child, and the oldest is 78 years old. Today we are equally delighted to inform you that 26 patients have been discharged from various hospitals, bringing to 2,039 the total number of recoveries. Also, on a sad note, we want to inform you that we have lost 4 more patients to the disease, bringing our total fatalities due to COVID-19 to 148. We send our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of the departed.
Well, the ministry has also launched 2 policies to help in the spread and treatment of tuberculosis.
Today, we are marking a milestone in the fight against TB in Kenya as we launch 2 important policy documents to guide our efforts in ending TB in the country. One of the policy documents that we are launching today speaks to the rollout of a regimen for treatment of multiple drug resistance TB that is devoid of injections, in line with the World Health Organization's call to eliminate injectables from multiple drug resistant TB treatment regimen to improve treatment outcomes. The second policy document addresses preventive treatment of latent TB infection offered to individuals who are at risk of developing active TB. Preventive treatment has proven to be an effective intervention to curtail development of active TB disease.
Well, just last year alone, we had over 80,000 people being treated for TB.
80,000?
Yes, that is last year alone, 2019 peke yake. We've not looked at 2020 and the years before 2019. Well, TB is actually number 5 in the killer disease, if not number 6, I'm not very sure. But it's among the top killing diseases in Kenya and in the world as a general.
And you know the most unfortunate thing is that TB can be cured.
Yeah, sure.
True. All right. The Kenya police are on the spot again after they were ranked high as the main perpetrators of violence against human rights. The report titled Pain and Pandemic: Unmasking the State of Human Rights in Kenya and Containment of the COVID-19 Pandemic, and based on a study conducted between March 17th and June 6th, has made a raft of recommendations to handle human rights issues. Through the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights also decried the backlog of cases in Kenyan courts, which it attributed to the arrests made in a bid to enforce COVID-19 rules.
We also, in this report, we have looked at access to justice, and you are very much aware that the usual way of doing things, especially accessing our courts for dispensation of justice, was also affected. Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions strengthened and employs alternative prosecution processes to reduce the number of cases being sent to the courts and prioritize cases resulting from COVID-19 and public health regulation.
You know, Sarah, I don't think our police are as bad as you know, everybody wants to paint them.
Yeah.
I believe they've just become the punching bag of every organization and every citizen, because I'm not saying that, you know, we don't have rotten eggs within the police force. It's just that when they do something, when, you know, they do some crazy stuff,
Yeah.
it receives a lot of, it's highlighted by the public and the media, for that matter. I don't think they are as bad as everybody wants to paint them. We've got very good police officers.
sure.
It's only that, you know, when they do good, nobody basically highlights. We only highlight whatever negative
Bad
they
they're
do.
doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's very true there. Remember, the discussion we are having today as we celebrate the World Day for Parliamentarians. How would you rate the performance of our current parliament in a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. Martin Dungu said 1.5%. Yes, now make a, you know, the emoji. This is how we're looking at them. I'm trying to imitate that. But, well, send in your views on what you think and how you would rate the current parliament. Steve Mbithi, thank you so much for tuning in today. Good evening, guys. This is Kevin from Manyanja. Great topic. We'll rate my parliamentarians at 1.0. As usual, politics is about money, power, and interests, not about us. Though there are very few good MPs. On the police, I'm sorry, Fred, but I have met only horrible, terrifying policemen. What? It's like they have been trained to have a body count only. TB bado iko yani? Yes, TB is there. But remember that TB in Atiba, you remember that line? Well, Esi Kimenyi, thank you so much for tuning in. Umesema 6 came very early today. Yes, the Lord is faithful. Kwani there is nothing that he doesn't have an international, oh sorry, let me get this again. Kwani there is nothing that doesn't have an international day of its own. How parliamentarians, let me not mark their exam because I stopped following their proceedings to retain my sanity. I make a mikono like this. Esi, thank you so much for tuning in and for your response. Joseph from Kisarian, praise God, Sarah and Fred. I missed the show yesterday. Oh, but it's good we are having you here today. Current parliament rating from me is at 8/10. Woo,
that's
this
nice.
is the highest so far. We've had a relatively implementing governing body with the impeachment of those that don't deserve the public rightfully. In every house there are deficiencies. It's good to acknowledge good when it's served. Meanwhile, let me say your family media app is unparalleled in service. Excellent. And if you've not heard about the app, just go to your Google App Store or even your Apple Store. Just type Family Media. You will see the application. Download it and you will have all the programs on the go. Well, there is this sad story actually in Wajir. And there is an assistant chief who actually defiled and impregnated a Form 4 student. And right now, human rights crusaders in that county want him arrested and prosecuted. And remember, this only comes a few days after we've had the reports of high number, and this is not only in Machakos, we've also heard of cases where there are high numbers of impregnated girls and school-going girls for that matter across the country. Listen to what these human rights crusaders had to say.
Local level at Wajir County, especially the District Security Committee and the DCIO specifically, to come out clear on this. We know investigation is going on. But today that guy was supposed to be here for plea. They can't tell us the guy cannot appear in court. They bonded him yesterday. He's an employee of the civil service, especially provincial administration. He's an assistant chief. There's no way. The county commissioner should bring this guy to court.
Any elder who sets for Malsa will carry the cross of actually perpetrating, violating the child, the right of the child, because that time you are actually silencing the infant, the young girl whose right has been violated, and you are making income of sexual abuse cases. That cannot be an income.
Well, and I'm sure it's not only in Wajir where people are actually calling for the perpetrators of this to be arrested.
True.
Yeah.
Well, as we mark, you know, the World Parliamentarians Day, we have a member of Parliament who today, or rather actually, was very active going and fighting excuse me, for
Sorry.
the rights of her people. I'm talking about Lamu woman representative Ruwaida Mohammed, who clashed with the Rural Electrification Authority REA official after Pate and Faza Island suffered a power blackout. Now, an estimated 3,000 households had been affected by the 2 weeks blackout in the area following a breakdown of the old diesel generators. Now, in a clip that has surfaced online, angry residents accompanied Ruwaida to the REA offices, who most of them throwing caution to the wind on the COVID-19 prevention guidelines.
It's an accusation to me in person, which is not fair. So did you want us to have a sober discussion or an argument? Then we sit down and talk.
Si mimi nilikuwa naja. Wewe unajua una yako, hata uliwahi kunitusi kwa mtandao wewe. Nakujua vizuri sana. Nakujua wewe unafanya politics ya nani. Nilikuona hata kwa mtandao ukinitusi. Usinione sikujui, nakujua vizuri sana. I even have your screenshots. Wewe ukianza hapo umeanza na siasa. Mimi sikuja na siasa, mimi nimekuja na vizuri kazi niliyoifanya. Nimeambiwa on 27 stima itarudi. Lakini ukija umeanza kuja na mambo ya siasa, mimi hata sijui umesema imeingilia wapi hiyo siasa. Didai kama mtu mambo ya siasa.
Excuse me.
Huyu anapelekwa kama puppet.
Hey, she's a tough lady there.
Yeah, she's a tough nut to crack, man. She's a tough nut to crack. And we're basically celebrating or marking the World Parliamentarians Day. World Internet. Oh, yeah, it's
World.
Yeah, it's a World Parliamentarians Day.
Yeah.
And so we had an opportunity to talk to, one of the members of Parliament who has been there for a while. I'm talking about Kisumu East MP Shabir, about the performance of this parliament and some of the things that he has seen, because he speaks out very openly about some of the things that happen on the corridors of power. This is what he had to say.
Personally, Parliament is meant to be reflective of the needs of the people.
Yes.
And meant to be representative of the people and to represent the people's needs in a forum where we can affect government policy and discuss issues.
Yes.
In that aspect, the issue, these are my personal views. I was in the Constitution Review Commission for some time.
Yes.
And one of the main that we had was to make the Parliament more responsive to and more accountable to the people.
Yes.
Whether we have, I am not too sure. Parliament has always been one that once you are in Parliament, sometimes you lose the connection with the people who sent you there.
Yes.
So I would personally say it depends upon each parliamentarian.
Yes.
And depends on him, because he is the representative of the people.
True.
And he's in the of the Parliament. So I think I would put that back and say individual parliamentarians need to be sure that they have put into place mechanisms and are responsive to their constituents on a daily basis.
Now, if you were to look at the performance of the current House, basically maybe from the beginning of the year to now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your performance? 10 being the best.
You're asking us to rate ourselves.
Yes.
Personally, I'm a third-time member of Parliament.
Yes.
I the first-time member of Parliament when I was there from 2008 to 2013.
Yes.
There were a number of things we could do. We were lesser in number, 220 or so.
Yes.
And we were able to interrogate much more. Now we have got a committee of 15 or 20 people, and sometimes that doesn't work.
Yes.
And you cannot speak in Parliament. You don't have you used to have question times where you could take up issues. But then also, as I said, my first term, I was much more happier. In the second term as well, I felt it was the second term was we had a lot more parliamentarians.
Yes.
And were not able to, as a parliament, not able to interrogate the issues that we would wish to. In the third parliament, again, it's the same issue. We are beholden to powers. Now we're beholden to the parties. We are beholden to the executive.
Yes.
And we are beholden to some of our own needs and greeds. And I think those are where, I mean, in the 10th Parliament when I was there,
yes,
you know, it was not easy to bribe a parliamentarian. But I've seen it with my own eyes. Somebody given $100 or $200 to vote another way.
Yes.
I've seen it. I've seen some of these guys doing it. I've seen parliamentarians right now going out pretending that they have gone out on a foreign visit and they've not gone there, and then we've raised it up with the Speaker of the Senate or whatever, like so and so.
Yes.
Actually was meant to be somewhere. I'm the head of the delegation,
yes.
And I told you never, but they never return the money. So these are the things that we need to work on. I think the larger the parliament, the less responsive we are, and we become, and then we are also beholden, as we said, to executive power, beholden to kickbacks, beholden to favors.
So basically, in terms of, as you're talking about, you know, responsibility and how you've been held captive maybe by different aspects, the independence of the current parliament, in your opinion, do you think has diminished in terms of, you know, its independence from the executive?
It depends on yourself. You see, the thing is, I'm speaking as a group.
Yes.
But then, you see, it only needs 2 or 3 or 5 parliamentarians to get together in a group of 200, 300
yes.
to make a difference.
True.
I chair the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption. Yeah. We have got 40 members.
Yes.
The African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, one of very powerful and very well known worldwide, and we are not like we lobby within Parliament, and we lobby for certain ethics. So but even if there are 5 of us, as long as we make a difference, and I have made a difference, and some of us have made a difference in the 10th Parliament, we did.
Yeah.
There were 6 of us and made such a difference. The Mata Karua, Shabesh, myself, Millie Diambo, and others. So it does not require a group of bigger people. It just requires 5, 10 of you to make a difference, because once you start making the difference,
yes.
others will follow you.
Anyway, we'll continue praying for parliamentarians so that at least we can get more people who will fight or champion the needs and the rights of the people, so that the people can feel well represented and they can have service delivery.
Leadership is God-given.
Yes.
Or leadership brings with it the responsibilities that the Lord has given too much to you, because it is felt, and you have a responsibility to your people and a responsibility to your God and the people to provide the leadership that is required. Yes. My sole responsibility, number 1, is to serve the people who have elected me. That's my first and primary responsibility.
Okay.
Serve your country and your people.
That's the most important thing.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. Shabir is a very interesting chap. He comes from Kisumu Town East.
They call him the only Muindi parliamentarian in Kisumu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he's, you know, even after being rigged out of the ODM nominations, he still came in as an independent. And he speaks very straight, and I like that. Anyway, he's one of the MPs that maybe on the ground, I don't come from Kisumu Town East, maybe somebody who comes from there can tell us whether he's performing, but he speaks very straight.
Yeah.
And today we are celebrating or marking the World Parliamentarians Day, basically just auditing the performance of members of parliament or parliaments in each country and how they've impacted the societies they serve.
You know what I like about him is that he was very honest, and he talked about how people are being bribed in the parliament
True.
to make things happen or not happen. Yeah, but that's very sad. Fred, we have a couple of people who've responded to the question today. This is Remy anasema, on the topic of today, as we celebrate the World International Parliamentary Day, I would rate my parliament with a 2 out of 10. This is because the place where I live, there is poor road network and no street lights, and there's still room for improvement. Thus, apart from that, the parliamentarians usually forget their general constituencies when they get into the specific post. However, before leaving Ngong, Kajiado County, where I used to stay for a while, I can rank the governor Olelenku, who was at that time 5 out of 10 because of the good tarmac road and street lightings that the people there are enjoying. So we have some good parliamentarians. This one,
but Lenku is a governor.
Yeah, that's the governor. Kuna mwingine. This is Steve Mbithi. Steve Mbithi, thank you. Here's another one. Hi, tuned into the good show as always. For parliamentarians, I think some are doing a good work, others are not, probably because of us citizens and the demands we put on them. Watoe kitu kidogo in Harambes, and when we meet them on the streets, to some they are walking ATMs, Tumewapea pressure. I give them 3 out of 10. Approaching expectations. This is Paris from Kabete. Thank you so much, my dear, for tuning in. We have Vincent Mulinge from Thika. I would rate the current parliament at 4 out of 10. I hope the guys who ate the hyena isn't related to Sarah.
Okay, let's find out whether this guy is related to. Let's find out whether the gentleman is actually related to you. You're going to tell us because we have his name here.
Yeah.
This man, who's actually over 40 years old, is on the run after villagers caught him roasting and eating a dead hyena in Kombewa, Kisumu County. Emphasis. Now, the wild animal had been killed by area residents who found it straying into a local slaughterhouse, scavenging for remains of slaughtered animals. Now, Obote Ochola reportedly ate the meat fast, raw, as surprised and shocked villagers looked on. A gentleman called Joseph Mito, an eyewitness, stated that Ochola, after eating the meat raw, later on lit a fire and started to roast the meat. So, maybe we don't know, we might never know the reasons why this guy ate this. You never know. Maybe the guy has gone through a difficult time and, found nyama ya free and decided, hey, man, this thing normally eat everything.
Yeah.
So why not?
Okay. The names here are actually putting the record straight, and I like that. His name is Obote Ochola. I am Sarah Otieno.
By the way, just in case you don't know, Sarah was trying to stop me from reading this story. So that's the reason why I suspect there may be some relations here.
Well, the good thing is that Nyanza is quite big. Si Kisumu peke yake. That's where we are. And the director is actually telling me hapo umetuweza. Like, he was also waiting to see whether I'm related to Ochola. No, I'm not. But anyway, I would really want to know the reason as to why this guy would actually just decide to eat a hyena.
But the question is, at times, I think I remember there was once a minister for, was it agriculture or something? I think it was Njeru Ndwiga, who once told Kenyans, you guys need to start diversifying the kind of food you eat. We just eat, in Kenya, if you don't have maize meal, we have a crisis.
Yeah.
Yet there are other kind of foods that are available. Like right now, one of the things that Njeru Ndwiga was saying, we can be eating things like locusts. They're high in protein and stuff. Like now, we'll actually be having a bumper harvest. Do you really think
because of the invasion?
Yes. Do you really think locusts would have come into the country if they knew very well they are coming to be made a delicacy? No. So Why condemn this guy? I mean, the hyena was already dead.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Sawa sawa. We'll just move on. Well, you know, COVID-19 cases are actually re-emerging, if I may use that word, and especially in Texas, that is in the USA. And right now, medics in that area are complaining that, you know what, the most affected people are the youth. The high
Really?
numbers that they are registering in the hospitals. And we have so many young people between the age of 30 and 39 being admitted in the hospitals. And right now, they just want the young people to take charge and take care of themselves. Listen to this.
What we are seeing here is a increased rate of hospitalization of 20 to 40-year-olds.
So it's certainly something that if I were younger, I would not take for granted that I'm going to be immune to having a serious illness. Seeing that very firsthand, absolutely.
That experience is an experience that I would never want anybody to have to go through.
Everyone should take this seriously. It is a real deal, it's a real thing, and it's very dangerous.
Well, it's very sad. And I remember in our country, CS Mutahi Kago was actually saying that the numbers are increasing amongst the young people just because of the house parties that people are hosting, you know, and they're not going to the parties outside, but now they're bringing the people, the outsiders, into their homes. And for that reason, we have high cases of COVID-19. Fred Umeniuza. You've sold me. So people are texting, you know, akiniambia, hey Sarah, tuambie tu kweli. So Steve anasema, umekata kusoma hiyo? Okay. Yani hiyo story yako.
yeah, I know.
Sawa tu. Anyway, Remy Kipchirchir anasema, I also wanted to know whether that person who ate the hyena is related to Sarah Otieno. We really need to ask Kenya Wildlife to come out and ask for protection against animal and human encroachment, you know. I believe that the man was hungry and he wanted to survive at the moment. Eric from Nairobi West, and you're saying Robinson Njeru Githai, that is.
Yes,
and he
it's
said Kenyans should diversify from their nutrition and eat rats, mice, etc. There are already delicacies in the prominent countries. Then we won't have food insecurities since we over-rely on maize and ugali.
True. He's very right. It was Njeru Githai, not Ndwiga.
Yeah, and also Titus has reminded us of that. Thank you, Titus, for tuning in. Esi Kimenyi is actually commenting on the issue of parliamentarians, and she talks about the Lamu lady. Anasema, that Lamu lady is my type of leader. When I grow up, I want to be like her. Angekuwa kiongozi wangu, would not have suffered the 1 month and 1 week blackout. By then in their area, they suffered for a whole month blackout, total.
As in 1 whole month?
Yes, 1 month, 1 week.
Oh.
Yeah, anasema Sarah related to the hyena guy or not. Sio wewe ulikula. Oh, yes. Thank you, AC, for being on my side. Whew. At least there's someone here. Well, I got some guys here. Eric Piame to remind. Thank you, Eric. Martin Dung is saying hyena. I won't judge.
Now.
You're judging.
Let me move from hyena issues.
Yeah.
And take you to one of the things that everybody right now, including women, I mean, everywhere you go, women have sanitizers in their bags. There are quite a number of people now putting sanitizer on the dashboard. Well, experts are now warning that you need to make sure that the sanitizers that you have, you don't expose them to heat. You remember, sanitizers are actually 80% alcohol, and it's very flammable.
Yep.
We had a case in the United States, which I'm going to show you, where, you know, this couple had a sanitizer on the dashboard of their vehicle, and because of the sun, it was shining hot, the sanitizer just exploded and set their car on fire. Just check this out.
The dashboard was actually on fire. You know, it was actually melting down. And it's just a scary moment.
My husband went with a bottle of water and a cup to try to turn it off.
As soon as I opened the door, I got hit by a black full of smoke.
Our preliminary investigation shows us that it was caused by a container of hand sanitizer. It's that clear plastic with that liquid in there that gives that sunlight the ability to reflect and cause that concentrated heating point.
Well, it's sad, you know.
Yeah.
And everyone right now has a hand sanitizer in their hand because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And remember, we are advised that it must be alcohol based.
Yes.
So these are some of the things that we need to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, just don't expose it to heat. Don't expose it to, a place where the sunlight is coming directly, because, as they say, it can easily explode because of the clear plastic that is on it. It's expanded. It's like a lens.
Yeah.
So it can set it on fire. People can get injured.
Before you tell us that story that I'm eagerly waiting to hear from your grandfather, well, we have Lawrence from Mombasa who is saying, and this is in relation to rating the parliament right now, the worst ever. Maisha yamekuwa magumu sana in their reign. God help Kenyans. So for them, for him actually, it's the worst parliament, and the MPs right now are the worst.
All right. I want to tell you the story of my grandpa that grandpa once told us. It's a very useless story. Old people are supposed to tell you things that benefit you. For this particular one, this is one of those days that grandpa told us a story that just, after that, you left the place wondering, Grandpa, are we supposed to learn anything out of this?
Bora you become sleepy, you know. Kitambos, it was just to around the fireplace so that mlemwende mlale.
So grandpa was born, was a very old man before he went.
Yeah.
Very, very old. He was born in the early 1900s. And so what happened one time, just during those time when, he calls family and we're little kids and he's giving you stories and stuff. He tells us about the story that they've been taken to the States during those days in preparation for the World War, First World War. I think it was in 1914. This was around 1912 or something.
Yeah.
So that's the time the Titanic had just been done, and it was about to sail. And so Grandpa, being a young person, I don't know whether he had seen a vision or what. So he sits with these guys who are going, because they were helping guys just take, the Mizigos into the ship. And he tells the guys, by the way, this ship is now going to complete its maiden trip. This thing is going to sink. Nobody listened to him. A second time, again, this is troubling him because nobody's listening to him. He tells them, guys, this thing is not going to complete its maiden trip. It's going to go down. Because during that time, it had been the Titanic, everybody, even the guys who built it were saying this thing is invincible. It cannot sink because it was big and everything.
Yeah.
So he told them this thing is going to sink. Nobody listened to him, but they paid attention a little bit because he was now becoming a nagging voice. Then the third time, he tells them, guys, with a loud voice, this thing is going to sink. It's not going to complete its maiden trip. And everybody now got angry, and they kicked him out. They kicked him out of the movie theater. You see, he was watching a movie.
Wait, what? Okay.
It's a movie spoiler.
For real, Fred. Hapa ndo
I
watu
told you it was
nasema
a useless story.
sawa tu, aki umetubeba wana, but sawa tu. Sawa. Anyway, well, do you know something else that we are celebrating today? The World Social Media Day. And social media has actually come to help a lot of people, including businesses. But really, I was thinking about it, and how can young people actually use social media to create a positive change? Because with social media, it comes with good and bad. But how can the young people use these platforms to actually create a positive change? Listen in.
I run an organization called Weird Enough Productions. We're a media company creating diverse comics with the idea that it'll create heroes both on and off the page. What's important is that we're creating larger systems of evaluation and analysis where media viewers are able to not only engage with positive representation, but learn how to dissect the bad as well. I think that the internet is kind of bridging a great divide in the sense that if there's something that you want to know that you're not being taught, you have the possibility to go learn. I think that through things like the March for Our Lives, what we're seeing is that when young people mobilize, there's really not much you can do to stop them. Weird Enough, what we say is as long as you pursue your personal truth, you're never too weird, you're just weird enough.
Technology is super important when it comes to organizing. Organizing is really the core of all of our power. I've been to over 40 states in the last year, deep red states, deep blue states. And the smartest people I've met are young people who are just Googling everything that they have on their minds, right? And so I would ask young people not only to use technology to inform, but use it to connect and challenge the people who are in power to actually do the right thing. We need to give more resources and create more space for young people so that they can disrupt this corrupt system. In 5 years, I hope to see an end to gun violence. I hope that we have morally just leaders in most positions of power. I don't just mean in politics, I mean in corporate bodies and nonprofits. I hope to see people who are putting people's lives over profits.
So I think that social media is a really great resource for people who, for example, might live in a small town and might not have that support system at home. If they have the ability to reach millions of people and get their message spread and get attention for what they're trying to say, I think that's great because they don't necessarily need to travel if they don't have the means for that, and they don't need to give a speech in front of hundreds of thousands of people. They can tweet something or they can post something and it can reach so many people. Expression to me is like the definition of success. But I think what's really necessary if we want to fully be able to express ourselves is to be comfortable and aware of who we are and not trying to conform to societal norms. And if you're not exposed to something, you don't think that you can become that. No aspect of your life is incorrect.
Well, this is actually young people, encouraging young people to use social media for a good, positive change.
True.
That is good news there. Well, this is Eric Ansema. Thanks for the shout out. My favorite presenters. Still wondering why you wouldn't say this is South Carolina. Okay, South Carolina, Nairobi West. Eric from there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And for everyone who contributed to this topic of the day, we are grateful. My name is Sarah Otieno. Oh, and he is Frederick Njiri.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.